The notification appeared just as Emma Carter unlocked her phone during lunch. Account balance. Account balance. She didn't gasp. She didn't panic. Instead, she quietly opened the banking app while sitting alone in her car outside the county courthouse, where she worked as a victim services coordinator. One glance confirmed everything. The savings account that had held $247,350.82 only hours earlier was empty. The transaction history showed one transfer 9:47 a.m. External transfer $247,350.82. Emma sighed and took another sip of her iced coffee. It finally happened, she whispered. For 3 weeks, she'd known this day was coming. Her mother, Margaret Carter, had become obsessed with that account. She'd repeatedly asked whether Emma still used the same First National Bank account they'd opened together when Emma was 17. Margaret's name had remained on it as a joint holder all these years. Emma had answered honestly every time. Yes. Because changing anything now would have raised dangerous questions. She unlocked another phone, one almost nobody knew she owned, and opened a secure messaging app. She typed only 4 words, "Activate Operation Blindside." 30 seconds later, a reply arrived. Confirmed. Stay where you are. Do not contact family. Teams are deploying now. Emma slipped the phone away and calmly walked back into the courthouse as though nothing had happened, because the money was never really hers. Legally, the account belonged to Emma. The cash inside did not. For the past 14 months, the account had served as a covert evidence account in an active federal investigation. Emma had secretly helped investigators expose Sterling Capital Partners, an investment company accused of laundering millions of dollars through shell corporations and unsuspecting personal accounts. Her job had been simple. Maintain a normal-looking savings account, monitored deposits to move through it, never interfere. Every transaction was tracked, every dollar photographed, documented, and preserved as evidence. Over $3.8 million had flowed through the account during the operation. The final balance, $247,350.82, represented months of carefully traced deposits connected to company CEO Victor Langford. Now Emma's mother had unknowingly stolen every cent. Months earlier, Agent Rebecca Hayes had warned her this could happen. Your mother keeps asking about the account, Hayes had said during a confidential briefing. She's convinced you're hiding money from your family. Emma had nodded. She's always controlled finances. Growing up, she tracked every dollar I spent. She still believes that because her name remains on the account, she has the right to use it. We can remove her. Emma shook her head. No. That would make the account look suspicious. Hayes hesitated before asking the question Emma had been avoiding. And if she actually takes the money? Emma stared silently across the conference table. Finally, she asked the one question she already knew the answer to. What happens to my mother? Hayes answered without hesitation. She'll be arrested for stealing federal evidence. Emma never forgot Agent Hayes' next sentence. Once the transfer happens, the case leaves our hands. The Treasury won't treat this as a family misunderstanding. They'll treat it as theft of federal evidence. Emma had understood exactly what that meant. So when her phone rang that afternoon, she wasn't surprised to see Hayes' name. She did it, the agent said without preamble. Your mother transferred every dollar into your father's account at Community Credit Union. Then she withdrew $50,000 in cash and started distributing the rest. Emma closed her office door. Who received it? Your father immediately used $15,000 to pay overdue medical bills. Your sister, Olivia, accepted a $25,000 check. The remaining funds are still frozen in your father's account. Emma shut her eyes. So everyone's involved now. Only your mother is facing criminal exposure at this point. Hayes replied. The others appear to have accepted the money believing it belonged to you. They're witnesses unless evidence shows otherwise. When are you moving? Warrants are being signed now. Agents are already at the banks. Your family will know within the hour. Emma thanked her quietly and returned to work, forcing herself through victim interviews while pretending nothing had changed. By 3:30 p.m., her phone exploded with calls. Olivia, Dad, her brother, Ethan, then Olivia again. Emma ignored every call. The first voicemail came from Olivia. Emma, call me. Mom's acting strange. Something happened with your bank account. 30 minutes later, another message arrived, this time filled with panic. Federal agents are here. They took Mom away. They keep saying she stole government money. Please tell me what's happening. Her father's voicemail was worse. Emma, they're searching the house. They froze my bank account. Please call us. Then came Ethan's message. What did you get us into? Mom's been arrested because of your account. Emma listened to each recording without replying. At 4:12 p.m., an unfamiliar number flashed across her screen. She answered. Emma. Margaret's voice trembled with anger. I only get one phone call. These people say I stole government money. Tell them they're wrong. Emma remained calm. They aren't wrong. Silence, then her mother's voice cracked. What are you talking about? The money wasn't mine. Stop lying. It belonged to an active federal investigation. Another long silence. You're trying to scare me. No. I've been working with federal investigators for over a year. That account was evidence. Every dollar inside it was being monitored. Margaret's breathing became frantic. I didn't know. I know. You have to explain that. I can't. I'm your mother. And you emptied my account without asking because you believed you had the right. I was helping this family. You were helping yourself make a decision that wasn't yours to make. Her mother's voice broke into sobs. Please fix this. Emma swallowed the lump in her throat. I can't. She ended the call before either of them could say another word. Outside her office window, the courthouse parking lot looked exactly the same. Inside Emma's world, nothing ever would again. At 6:30 that evening, there was a knock on Emma's apartment door. Agent Rebecca Hayes stood outside alongside another woman, dressed in a dark business suit. This is Special Agent Diane Brooks from the Treasury Department, Hayes said. We need to explain what happens next. Once they were seated, Brooks opened a thick case file. Your mother is being charged with theft of federal property, obstruction of justice, and money laundering, she said. Given the amount involved and the impact on an active investigation, she's facing serious federal penalties. Emma stared at the folder. How serious? The sentencing guidelines could place her in prison for well over a decade. The room fell silent. What about my father and my siblings? They appear to have accepted the money, believing it belonged to you, Brooks explained. Unless we discover they knowingly participated in the theft, they won't face the same criminal charges. However, every dollar they received will be seized. Emma nodded slowly. My mother acted alone. We believe that, Brooks replied. But her actions forced us to expose an operation we'd hoped to keep confidential for several more months. Emma frowned. The Sterling Capital case? Brooks nodded. Your identity as our confidential informant will now become public much sooner than planned. Emma had expected that possibility, but hearing it aloud still hurt. So everything changes, yes. Hayes leaned forward. But understand something. The investigation itself is still strong. Every transfer was documented long before your mother touched that account. Over the next week, events moved with incredible speed. Margaret pleaded not guilty during her arraignment. Her attorney argued that she believed she was accessing family money from an account she'd legally shared for years. Federal prosecutors disagreed. The evidence showed she had emptied an account she had no authority to control, then scattered the funds through cash withdrawals, transfers, and checks. Bail was set so high that the Carter family couldn't afford it. Margaret remained in federal custody. Meanwhile, Emma's phone never stopped ringing. Friends, extended relatives, former neighbors. Everyone wanted answers. She gave none. A week later, Ethan appeared outside her apartment. When Emma cracked open the door, he looked exhausted. Mom's bail was lowered, he said. We're trying to raise enough money. Please help? Emma shook her head. I can't. You could end this with one phone call. No, I can't dismiss federal charges. Ethan's frustration boiled over. You let this happen. Emma looked him straight in the eyes. Did Mom give you money? He hesitated. $15,000. Did you ask where it came from? I thought it was yours. I earn $52,000 a year. Emma replied quietly. Did it ever occur to you that I couldn't possibly save nearly $250,000? Ethan lowered his eyes. No. None of you asked because you didn't want the answer. For the first time, he had nothing to say. He simply turned around and walked away. Emma watched him disappear down the hallway, realizing her family had already begun falling apart, long before the arrests. The federal case against Sterling Capital Partners concluded 3 months later. With Emma's testimony and the mountain of financial records collected over 2 years, prosecutors dismantled the laundering operation piece by piece. CEO Victor Langford and 5 senior executives were found guilty of wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. The convictions made national headlines. The government recovered millions of dollars for victims who had lost retirement funds, college savings, and life investments. For risking her career and safety, Emma received a $2.1 million whistleblower award. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had become genuinely wealthy only after her mother had gone to jail for stealing money that had never belonged to her. Then came Margaret's trial. Her attorney portrayed her as a desperate mother, trying to save her struggling family. Prosecutors told a different story. They showed surveillance records, bank statements, and transaction logs proving Margaret knowingly emptied an account she had no authority to control. They demonstrated how she immediately distributed the money through cash withdrawals, transfers, and checks, disrupting an active federal investigation. The jury deliberated for barely 3 hours. Guilty on every count. 6 weeks later, the courtroom was packed for sentencing. Margaret stood before the judge, looking years older than when she'd been arrested. "I made a terrible mistake," she said quietly. "I believed I was helping my family, but I violated my daughter's trust and broke the law. I'm sorry." The judge acknowledged her remorse but emphasized the damage. "You stole nearly $250,000 tied to an active federal investigation. Your actions jeopardized years of work and required enormous public resources to correct." After a long pause, the sentence came. 8 years in federal prison. Margaret collapsed before deputies caught her. Emma remained seated in the back row. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She simply watched as her mother was led away. Months passed. Emma quietly paid off her father's mortgage and covered several years of his medical expenses through an anonymous attorney. She never revealed the source of the money. Her sister, eventually discovered the truth anyway. She sent only one text, blood money. Emma never answered. Years later, she visited Margaret once every birthday. During one visit, her mother asked softly, "Do you forgive me?" Emma looked across the prison visiting table. "I don't know yet." Another silence settled between them. Outside prison walls, Emma continued helping crime victims rebuild their lives. People often asked whether 8 years was too harsh for a mother who believed she was protecting her family. Emma always gave the same answer. "My mother wasn't punished for loving her family. She was punished for believing love gave her the right to ignore someone else's boundaries and the law." Justice had recovered the evidence. The investigation had succeeded. But justice hadn't restored her family. Some victories leave permanent scars. Emma carried hers every day, knowing that protecting the truth had cost her, the people she once believed would always stand beside her.